Hi, students. How are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim. Thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are doing great. You all know that there is something that I discovered about some people, white people and other people. And that is, they feel like as a Black person that you are supposed to identify with poverty or not living probably not living in the best place or neighborhood and all that. That is what they expect from every Black person. But when you live probably above what they are expected of you, then you cannot relate to when you can't relate to anything when it comes to Black community. So for them, they identify Black people as people that are not well to do. And when you are well to do, you do not fit in that category. That is to tell you how bad some people's mentality is. Now, there is something that I also notice about these people. They do not want to see a well-doing Black woman. They do not want to see you at the top. They do not want to hear that you are doing great for yourself. That's why Black people wake up every day to so many criticism and all that. And then they ask you, why can't I criticize you? Now you can criticize Black people, but let Black culture, leave Black culture for Black people to talk about. Enough of you all roaming about looking for something to hold Black people with. Let's get into this.
Propaganda. I just want to remind y'all that this was Beyonce's childhood home. She also went to private.
Okay, now I'm mad. Now I am actually angry. All of the other conversations that have been going on about it, Beyonce being America's best propagandist, I think have been very educational. And despite the fact of me not agreeing with the initial video that kicked off that conversation, I think it was a very educational and for the most part healthy conversation. But this right here, yeah, this is when I'm actually going to step in, because as a Houston born and raised Texan, literally, I just finished eating Whataburger. Houston, born and raised Texan, whose family is from the 3rd and 5th wards of Houston. Yeah, this video pissed me clean off. Because from what I can tell, not only are you not from Houston, you are not Black. So why are you speaking on a Black woman and her upbringing in a historically Black neighborhood? And then telling people that they shouldn't be inspired by her. Telling Black people that we should not be inspired by her. Why? Because she's a billionaire. We can have our critiques of her being a billionaire while still being inspired by her as a Black woman. Especially as one from the 3rd ward of Houston. Do you know what the 3rd ward of Houston is? Do you even know how many wards Houston has without looking it up? No? I mean, I already know the answer to this question just given what your video is about, but do you even understand the historical, economic, class politics that play out in Houston and the ways that they play out with the racial politics in Houston as well? No? Yeah, I already knew that from that video. So why are you talking? Why are you trying to have this conversation? Because based on your video, people shouldn't be inspired by anybody that comes out of the 3rd ward of Houston. Not even my grandfather, who was one of the first Black engineers at NASA. Because he's from the 3rd ward. Do you know that the 3rd ward is the first ever lunch counter protest that happened in the city? They are the ones that kicked off the civil rights movement in Houston. Do you know that? Do you know that they have fought and scraped to be able to keep the 3rd ward a historically Black neighborhood because the city keeps trying to take their land from them for more city property? Do you know that? No? Then why are you speaking on it as if you understand all of the racial and class politics that are at play there? Simply because she has a nice house. Simply because she went to a private school. Do you know anything about the history of that private school? Or do you just equate Blackness and Black struggle with poverty? We were not all impoverished, while still understanding the implications of the way that class did play within our own communities. Because they play out differently in our communities as they do in the larger American society. And again, this is the problem that I have with white leftists. Y'all constantly speak on class as if it's entirely separate from race when they are inextricably linked. Inextricably linked. I don't play identity politics because I want to play identity politics. I do because when I step out of my upper middle class house, I am still black. And I still have to go out in the world with this black ass face and be treated as a black ass person. Nobody knows about this. Nobody knows about the things that my family have provided me, which, yes, has given me a lot of a leg up, but I am still black. I am still behind the other people that are in my class that are white, simply because of my race. I relate to other black people across class because of my race. Our cultures, especially in Houston, are the same because of race, not because of class. In 2025, I want a lot more of y'all to learn how to maybe just be part of the audience. Maybe just be a student. You do not have to be a contributor or a leader of every conversation, especially when you do not understand any of the background, cultural, bottom level context that you need to have to be able to have the conversation. Keep Houston out of your mouth. Keep Black Southern culture out of your mouth if you do not have the range. Happy New Year.
Like Beyonce, I also grew up in a very nice house and also went to private school as a child, so I wanted to talk about that bullshit video that came into my feed. In these last days of TikTok, I'm going to start being a little bit more blunt.
Propaganda. I just want to remind y'all that this was Beyonce's childhood home. She also went to...
Something that I always notice when I interact with white people is their assumption that I grew up poor and impoverished. It is something that comes up all the time. And it's bizarre because personally, I know that I was raised very privileged. I know that I was raised upper middle class, that there were very little context where I wanted for anything growing up. I had amazing Christmases every single year. And was my childhood perfect? No. But I recognize that my parents put me in good schools. I lived in a very nice, safe area. And I never had to worry about a lot of the things that I think a lot of people would assume a Black person would have to worry about in terms of living in an impoverished area. And it's interesting because there are occasionally times where I will interact with a white person who doesn't have that, right? Who doesn't have the experience being upper middle class, maybe grew up, in a situation that was a lot more dire. And it's odd to listen to the way that they imagine me being less than them, poorer than them, less educated than them, as a way of kind of pushing themselves up. I know that if the people that I've interacted with who feel this way saw my house, which frankly wasn't even necessarily like a particularly like super impressive house. It was a 2-story home in a safe suburban area. I lived in a cul-de-sac. It was a nice house in comparison to the vast majority of houses in this country, but it was no mansion, right? I know that if they saw that house, it would just piss them off because there are so many white people who truly do need to imagine that Black people have less than them, struggle more than them, and will always be poorer than them. Now, obviously, even though I had class privilege, there are a lot of things I don't have privilege in, especially being a Black trans woman, right? But I definitely have always tried to acknowledge my own class privilege. And that's kind of why I sometimes nope out of certain conversations, because frankly, I'm still growing and learning and processing. But yeah, it was not surprising to me to see that video where she was like, yeah, by the way, Beyonce is not even relatable to Black people because she grew up upper middle class in a situation where she went to private schools. It's like, wow. So you imagine that Black people don't have that experience, right? You imagine that all Black people are struggling, impoverished, and oppressed. And yes, many of us are. Many of us are. And just because someone has money does not mean they don't experience oppression, does not mean that they don't experience anti-Blackness, right? One of the things that I had to recognize is that my class privilege honestly just sheltered me from a lot of front-facing experiences with racism. It wasn't until I started living in more lower income areas that I started actually experiencing a lot of that, right? Like in your face, blunt, blatant racism, right? And that's a layer of this conversation also. A lot of y'all think that Beyonce could be from Texas, but somehow not have an understanding of racism, America, the impact that racism has had on Black folks in America and the state, right? There's a lot of assumptions about how much she understands, right? And it's very bizarre to me, especially being a Virgo, because we're calculated, BB. We are very, very calculated, right? And people acting like, oh, she just happens upon these things, or, it's just a mindless puppet, being used, da 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 da. It's like these arguments always come out when it's a Black woman. These arguments always come out when it's a Black woman. A lot of you guys are saying the same exact shit you said about Kamala Harris and Beyonce. And I will be honest, I think I like Beyonce slightly more than Kamala Harris. I mean, I do have Renaissance on vinyl. But I'm not a Beyonce stan. I'm not a Kamala Harris stan. I never have been. But what I have been is aware of the way that many of you engage with Black women. And that's something that I, of course, am very aware of because I have lived in white conservative areas for so long, right? There's this way in which white people just don't want to even entertain the premise that you could know something more than them, that you may have something more than them, that you might be actually more capable than them at something, right? I mean, we kind of see shades of that in the whole, visa conversation happening right now with Donald Trump and Elon Musk, right? Like, there's just this this frustration at, white people not getting everything, even if they're underqualified for the thing, right? Even if they don't, anyway. White supremacy is a system that exists just to make people with an inferiority complex feel superior. I'm just going to say it.
I did not think that she was going to block me after asking her to expand on this comment. I'm just glad I got a video reply because I want to still have this conversation. This creator is currently pioneering a conversation that Beyonce is one of America's biggest propaganda machines. And it's not that I don't necessarily agree. I just think when it comes to having conversations about things like Black liberation, Black heritage, or just validating the Black experience in America, I think calling that propaganda is lazy and irresponsible. It's irresponsible because propaganda is inflammatory. If you say that she makes propaganda and she has an agenda, you are triggering a bias in people's heads. And if you want to have a conversation in good faith when you're referring to someone having influence, especially when it comes to sensitive topics about people that are descendants of slaves, instead of saying propaganda, could you not say influence? Could you not say undertones? There's undertones of Black liberation inside of her music because that's what that is. Beyonce got on stage and said there's a whole lot of red in that white and blue. History cannot be erased. She got on there, they sang Blackbird. She talked about her people cooking in the kitchen. They thought it was sweet when we were cooking and walking past dirty dishes. She talks about the Black experience in America and reclaiming the American flag because some descendants of slaves, we are proud to be Americans. Not America, white America as it is. We are proud to be people that were brought over in ships. We were born to be slaves. The fact that we're still here to this day and we have the freedom and the history that we have, you can't tell me that I was born in Texas. I've been raised in Atlanta. I'm a Southern girl through and through. You can't tell me that my heritage is not in that American flag. You can't tell me that the blood that my people spill are not in that American flag. And that was the whole point of this Cowboy Carter era. The whole point is that they said she wasn't country enough. She came back, kicked the door down and said, don't ever forget who the real cowboys were. Don't ever forget who the real Americans, the real people behind that flag are. If y'all don't know, the American flag was made by a 14-year-old slave, a 14-year-old black slave. Let me say that. She was a black child who sat there and knitted that flag. And you're going to tell me that you see an American flag and you think that it's America propaganda? And then some people say, oh, it's because if you're not listening to the lyrics and you see American flags, we're going to just assume that it's pro-America. That is not her fault. That is not her fault. The lyrics show that it's very pro-black patriotism. The lyrics show that it's very pro-country. We're talking about black country. We created the genre. Y'all see platinum blonde hair. Mind you, she's had that hair her entire fucking life. Maybe it's a lighter shade, but please, we're picking things and we're not listening to the actual lyrics of the song. And I just think we're being lazy with the way we are having these conversations. But brings you back to this comment. It makes sense that you think black patriotism is something to be comfortable about, but it's not. As a descendant of a slave, you are never, ever going to tell me that I should not be patriotic to my people. And again, being patriotic to Black America is completely different to being patriotic to regular America. Black America and regular America, two different things. Black liberation, black patriotism, not the same as nationalism. It's not the same. If you really dug deep into those nuances, instead of just saying it's propaganda because she's throwing around the American flag, I mean, you don't even have to say that. You could have just replied to this and we could have had a conversation and we could have had a full circle, because it's obvious that you think black patriotism is the same as white patriotism. That's it. It's a full circle. But instead you blocked me and then you told me I'm not owed your content. I don't want your content. I wanted you to expand on this thought. That's how I hate conversations like this. We can't have conversations in good faith because you're replying to everybody else saying, oh, you guys can't critique your favorite artist. That's not the point. There's plenty of critiques you have for Beyonce. She's a billionaire. She's a billionaire. We could talk about that. There's billions of critiques that people can have for her. She's married to Jay-Z. That's the whole rabbit hole within itself. The whole entire point is that an era like Cowboy Carter that has to do with reclaiming black presence in country music probably is not the conversation to relate to propaganda. That's all I wanted to say, but then you blocked me. Not that I care. There are so many people on this app that have me blocked. Okay, if I listen to some of y'all faves right now who have me blocked, I'll be like, what did you do? Nothing. I like to engage in conversations that are hard, and people don't like that. I don't know why.
Critiques of Beyonce are always going to cause discourse, and you have to have a certain level of intersectionality to understand why, because to think that people don't want to criticize her music specifically because of the fact that they have some parasocial relationship with a billionaire is insulting, especially in this day and age where everyone is becoming so class conscious. But if you are a little confused as to why people are critical when people criticize Beyonce, let me give you a little history lesson. Enslaved people had to braid down patterns of escape houses and roots in their braids because they couldn't speak of this information. They also sang hidden messages in the hymns they sang while they were working to other enslaved people. It's how they communicated. The desperation to get this information out without being able to verbally express it is why to this day it seems like African Americans have telepathy. We can look at each other and just know what's up. So fast forward to like the 19th century. Black people were free. However, we don't have the ability to be represented in this country. But one way we were represented is in our music. The white man loved the fact that an African American could hold a tune. So that's what we did. And we sang our tunes for them. However, if you listen to the lyrics, they're not pro-white. Strange fruit. Do you think that's about fruit hanging from a tree? But those white people were listening to that music. Andre 3000 so famously said, y'all don't hear me, you just want to dance. Because the one thing people do when they hear music is dance. They're not listening to the lyrics. But this ability or this phenomenon is what allowed so many African Americans to propel themselves out of the poverty at the time where poverty was almost death. Mind you, it's not a lot of African American superstars. You see a few of them, again, which is another reason why people are critical when y'all criticize the few people that were able to propel themselves to stardom that was unfamiliar to African Americans. And you have to keep in mind that these African American superstars started in the mud. They started from the trenches. You listen to country music. They're singing about being on a farm sharing 9-to-1 room. You listen to drill music. They're jumping off the porch at 7 years old. These people aren't coming from outstanding circumstances. Yet you have their counterparts that are white who are Nepo babies who aren't facing the same criticism. Beyonce came from
regular life, propelled into a level that not a lot of people will see. You can critique her for being a billionaire. You can critique her for the things she do, but you want to critique her music because the imagery, not the lyrics, but because of the imagery and how you feel when you see an American flag. This is why I say intersectionality is important, because you're talking about the imagery and we're talking about the lyrics. All this context, all this nuance, all this information you need to know to have these conversations, and then you say that we don't want to say it's propaganda because we don't know what propaganda really means? For one, that is a white supremacist talking point to think that we can't open a dictionary and read words and understand what connotation and denotation is. Second of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Tiffany. I'm a political science major. I'm going to law school. I am on a merit-based scholarship. Please do not insult my intelligence. I don't talk a lot on this app because it's not really worth it, but every now and then I gotta pop up to remind you guys you're playing with the Gemini and the wrong one.
This is all I got from this video. I love black intelligence, smart. She showed herself. I mean, not in a bad way. I mean, I love it when people are, when they are reading a course or doing something and you hear them use the terms, right? From how she spoke, you definitely will know that she got something to do with the law, and that is absolutely great. I love how she showed herself. That it's so beautiful, right? Now, let me tell us something. There is something that I have found out. I mean, when it comes to Black people and how Black people do their thing, and also if it is a successful Black woman, it triggers some people, right? And I am not going to lie to you people. I love music so much, right? But I am not stuck when it comes to artists and celebrities, right? I love Beyonce, but I do not like, I don't know, I am not a freak. I just love her from afar. And that's just it. But why I am talking about this is not because I love her, but because I feel like some people should have a limit to some certain things they do, especially when it comes to Black women. And then the undertone from what you are saying tells a lot. I am going to say this to Black people. I am always, most times after work, I am always on YouTube, on social media, probably looking for content, right? But one thing I am going to say, and I am saying it from the bottom of my heart, is that you should watch your back. Black people really do watch your back. I have my reason to say it. And the reason is that a majority of the people, even people that look like me too, that are actually out there on social media, are just very, very biased. One thing I know about myself is that when I see something, it is not right, I will speak it. Right? But I do not defend some certain things, especially when it is not right. The young lady that brought this and started talking about propaganda and how Beyonce cannot also, she grew up in probably a well-to-do family and she cannot even relate to some certain things in Black community. Who asked you? Who asked you? When did you people become the judge in Black community? Are Black people complaining? So far, no. You all remember the way Madeline Paddington or something. You remember how she started? When she started behaving somehow, I saw so many Black people defending her. Not until she grew wings that they couldn't control her, they ran away. This is also what is going to happen. You all remember the video I posted yesterday about the girl with curly hair that started the whole discussion, right? I've seen so many Black people and also some migrants. Yes. I am not going to mention their names because I don't want anybody going around beefing with anybody, but I know all of them. I saw all of them. I see all of them. And I am really looking at them. I saw them defending bullshit, but I will leave it for them. Let them continue. Till the day this story will expand so well, I will bring all of them here and show you the people you are supposed to move with. Like, I will show it clear so you all will know. Because some people could just come out on the internet and act like, I am with you, but they are not with you. I see their shares. I see the videos they share. I see the videos they like. I see the videos they comment. I see all of it. So in case you are watching me, I see you all. Not until the day I will open up, you all will pick a race. But one thing I'm going to say is that Black people, really be careful. I know why I'm saying this. You all are so quick. When I say so quick to defend some certain people. This was also what happened between Palestinians and Black people, right? They were busy. Some of them, the pro ones, were so busy defending Palestinians. Not until also Palestinians grew wings too, and they couldn't control them. It became a problem. They ran away. I cannot wait to see this. This is more like the second or the third, the third or fourth one. I see you. I am bringing all your pictures and your handles here. That is how it is. And I am going to say this, and that this is where I am going to draw the curtain. Black people, do you. The world will adjust. No matter what you do, people will absolutely criticize you. They were talking about capitalism, this, that, Beyonce. Let me tell us something. If you are a business person and you put out goods for people to buy, you are also aiming at being a capitalist. That is how in business, that is how it is. I don't know how you say it, but this is just exactly how it is. If you are manufacturing this, if you are a manufacturer, you manufacture this and you put it out in the market, you are aiming at being a capitalist. Because if they also give you a chance, you will even do more than those people at the top. But you all are so quick to come out to scream. You all can do better and leave Black people alone. One thing is that they do not want to see a successful Black woman. They do not want to see See, I don't care about Beyonce. They are not I do not care so much about them. But I am saying in general, they really do not want to see you at the top. This is where I am going to draw the curtain. Thank you so much for the support, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye for now.